Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson, and I have the lovely Jacqui Baker on the episode with me today. Jacqui, thank you for being awesome and joining me on this fine day.
Oh, wow. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, you're awesome. Now, I don't have any plan for this show other than this one thing, and I like to start every episode with why I appreciate my guests. If anybody hasn't heard this before, I always like to do this because I believe we need to start telling each other why we love and appreciate each other. In this small way, I believe it's the first step towards a little thing called world inner peace. But hey, maybe I'm just a dreamer. We'll see. So, to that effect, I love how just straight up real you are. There's something about authenticity, especially in this day and age where there's all the filters and all the stuff and everybody's putting on a facade. From our first conversation, you're just straight to it. Like, this is me. This is what I think. This is where we go. And I love that because, especially nowadays, like all you can really ask for is somebody to be real with you because then you can actually have a meaningful conversation. If you don't, we're just two strangers passing by. So I love that about you. I appreciate you being that. And thank you for joining me today.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, the reason why I'm joining you is because you said nothing was off limits.
Whoa, well, especially on something like Naked Sunday, how could it be off limits? There's something to go with that. Let's do this. You know yourself better than I. Jacqui, please share with the audience, who are you?
Okay. I am originally, in case anyone hasn't picked up, from Derry in Northern Ireland. I came over here 10 years ago to England, so I live in the south of England now. And I became single in my early 50s. And from that, I set up select events, which was events for over 50s. And then during the pandemic, I trained to be an accredited matchmaker and then launched my own bespoke introduction agency called Select Connections. So from then on, but it's dealing in the demographic of singles in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I rarely say over 50. I do say it every now and again when I have to keep down on words. But the reason I say 50s, 60s, and 70s is because in their own decades, they embrace very different things and need very different attention. And you can't judge them all in the one box. You can't just say they're all over 50. It's a job I very much enjoy, especially when I get it right and I manage to match some people. And it has its moments, like any job, in reality. But I enjoy it. I also do some dating, mentoring, and coaching. And I'm one of those coaches. And I tell my clients, I'm not going to go around things nicely. I'm going straight in there. I'm going hard. I'm going heavy. I'm not going to let them get off with anything. And I will question them on everything because that's where they're going wrong with dating.
It comes right back to what I just said beforehand. If you ain't going to be real, what are we doing here? So it takes somebody who is willing to be real and straight up to be able to call that out.
Yeah.
Wow. Matchmaking in general, like, I think a lot of people think about like matchmaking is like that's just something you see in the movies. What drew you to this path? Like, it obviously you said you had your own your own divorce and your own like singlehood in your in that time, but like what drew you in to be like, wow, this is a place I can serve?
Um, I suppose most of my life I had worked in business development for a university, but before that I have trained in hospitality, worked in very high-end hospitality. And it's like dealing with people. I was always good at dealing with people, and I was always able to diffuse situations outside the home. That's why I'm single. um, but I suppose when I sort of started singles events, I thought actually I can do something more than this, because I felt that I was running my events because they're not dating events, they're socials, because a lot of my demographic come to me because there's no stigma attached to the events. It's not like a dating meat market for older people. They're socials. And should they, like get along with someone at the event, then even better, but they won't go in with that stigma. So they tend to want to come on their own then, and they tend to want to come because it's not labeled dating. And I thought, well, sure, out of this, then I can do the dating after that. And as it turns out, there's a lot of people that, there's not a lot left other than online dating these days. Here, a lot of people don't go to bars, or, the pandemic has left a lot of people where they're just during the pandemic, we didn't even look at each other in case we got COVID when we were out walking our dogs. It was just like, let's see how far away we can get from each other. It seems crazy now where we're at, but the bespoke matchmaking came out of that one, and a lot of people are confidential later in life when they want to date. They want to do it confidentially. They don't want to go online. They don't want to be seen online. There's a lot of people that have had really important jobs, maybe retired, and that's not for them.
Mm. Well, that makes a lot of sense. People start to value their privacy a lot more, especially online, especially nowadays, because you don't know what's a scam or whatever. And
No.
especially when it comes to intimacy, like now we're really getting there. Like, people in their
Oh,
20s and 30s are already just annoyed with the online dating, and you feel like your part is just some meat market, just like swipe left, swipe right.
well, you see, the Gen Zs and the millennials, they grew up with online dating, whereas I am from the boomers, just literally scraped into the boomers by my teeth. And that, we weren't used to that. We were used to dating face to face, to real dating, not digital dating as such. So it's something that we've had to get used to. And there's a lot of scams there as well. A lot. I mean, I'm actually speaking at a mental theft day tomorrow about romance scam. And when I done my research, obviously I know what it is and but I wanted to get some figures and facts on it, and it is quite scary. And they prey on the older single people that are lonely and more, like susceptible to being easily taken in.
Wow. Well, it's tragic because
Mm.
loneliness, when you're feeling desperate.
It's 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 bad. It really is bad. Loneliness is a big thing amongst, like older people. And it it's well, it's horrendous anyway, without then being taken for a ride and your emotions being, it leaves, even if some people who scam them don't get to the point of taking their money, maybe they've groomed them for weeks, and then suddenly they ask for money and it's a massive red flag, hopefully, but it's not for everybody. Then they're just left, like it's bad for their self-esteem. A lot don't talk about it, a lot don't tell other people about it, and then they're just left and they don't want to go back online again in case they're going to get scammed again. So they're just lonely and sort of feeling foolish and silly for believing that person.
Well, not only that, getting their hopes up of like, I'm not going to be lonely anymore.
Yeah.
That's got to be the ultimate letdown. Of like, I got to imagine you're talking to some people, whether they've gone through a divorce or maybe they've lost a loved one or their spouse or whatnot. That's a that's a hefty emotional burden to say I'm opening myself up again,
Hmm.
and then just have somebody take you on a ride like that with a lack of integrity. I mean, it's the irony of relationships about relationships is, um, yeah, it's tragic.
It's the lowest, isn't it? It's really, they have no morals. They could be talking up to 25 people a day. They're all packed in a room, mainly in Nigeria, part of the Red Axe gang, as such it is, that are the main gang that look after romance fraud. They don't care. They don't care. They're handed a script, they're given like a caseload, and they're told to get on with it. And the person on the other end just thinks they found someone that has fallen in love with them. And every day they'll be looking forward to their conversation, a form of, like engaging with someone. And then suddenly it's all gone and they feel so foolish. And, money in some cases, if they haven't, taken their life savings, is the least of what they take from them.
It's the hope.
Yeah.
I think the hope is the one that really, whew, wow.
Mm.
What's
It's
something,
it's a big
what,
thing.
yeah, what's something that you did not expect getting into this line of work? Like connecting people like that. This is, I mean, basically, there's a promise or an expectation like, hell, you're going to help me find somebody that truly aligns with what I want, where I'm going with the rest of my life. It's somebody I can share my life with. That's not a small
No,
investment of time, energy, and resources.
it's
Because that's
not.
the ultimate thing. Like everybody wants love, right? Who doesn't want love?
Yeah, and sometimes because of the age, there's an air of desperation, especially, from the singles in their 60s. They're just like, I need to find this person. I don't want to grow old alone. I don't want to be alone. One particular lady I have that lives in London, she had 3 children, a husband. She had a relationship or two after that, but the 3 kids have gone, and she just gets up every day to an empty house. And that's like, it's tough. She comes down, she doesn't want to come home from work every day because she's by herself. And so she fills her life with activities, totally overkills herself with activities because she wants to find that guy. And she came to me, and it's such a big ask, and I have to be careful how I manage that ask, and how I manage their expectations in the way that, I say, I can help you, myself and my coach, we can help you reframe your thinking to a point, and we can help you get a better thought process in place to open up that, that possibility. Because when a lot of people come to us, they've got this very, this relationship shopping list with them, and it's unreal. It's unrealistic. It's if you're going to follow that list, then but they've had these ideals in their head, either from when their husband and wife left them or when they passed away, that this is what they were going to get this time. This is what I'm after. So you have to try and manage that and take them back to a reality check. And then, any of them that have online did it. And actually, one of my clients that came to me and she was scammed twice online is getting married on the 20th of May.
Wow.
Never married, age 50. So if they come to you and they've been online, then they've got the whole online way of dating, which is something that I have to disperse off with them straight away, because online's just like right, left, right, left, right, left. Who cares? First thing is, what's the picture look like? And then you analyze the picture, where they're at, what way they're standing, what they're holding, as if they've got a squinty left eye, and then you think, I'll look at the profile now, whereas we have to make them concentrate on the profile and the values that they find in the commonalities, and that jump out at them, so that when they meet them, they're not got this big long list of things. They're actually expecting a lot less. Let's just get to date one, have a nice time, relax, and let's not expect so much. Spend less than an hour together is what I say. If you found that hour's passed nice and quick, and you've had a nice giggle or interesting, then comfortably move on to date 2 and see from that. It's removing all those big expectations that ooze out of the person on a date.
Wow. So I appreciate what you're sharing there, because you hear a lot of similarities in business and in health and all aspects of like when there's this overblown expectation that you're bringing to the table right in the beginning. I mean, we've talked a little about it's like it's proposing on the first date. You're expecting it all to be all right now, and
Mm.
you're paying. you're basically setting up almost an impossible feat for the person on the other side of it, whether they're awesome or not. Or, I mean, let's assume they're awesome. No matter what, they're not going to be able to live up to any of those expectations because you're just looking for all the flaws as opposed to, hey, let's just start here. Which
Mm.
you look back at anything you've ever really been successful, and it's like, cool, let's just start it here. I was still interested. I came back again. And it's almost like you're strengthening the muscle. You're doing a couple
Yes.
reps at a time. You're seeing the thing. You're getting the routine
Mhm.
of it.
Mhm.
Not a sexy answer because everybody wants to walk off into the sunset after they felt
Oh,
lonely forever. But
they
or
want the spark. They want the spark. Now, when they come to me, you said it was okay to swear on the show, didn't you?
fuck yeah.
Good, because I say fuck the spark. Every time they come to me, I say, where has the spark got you? What is it all about? And I actually wrote a blog that says fuck the spark. Because it's shit. It's rubbish. It's unsustainable. You gotta work at it slow but sure in those steps. Because a spark is something that's, attraction there and then. It's not necessarily good for longevity. So start the other way and work your way to that, because you'll find, when we were younger, we used to talk to people, meet them ad hoc here and there and bars and restaurants. And I'm the worst one for it now. When I go in somewhere and I'm on my own for a coffee, I sit on my phone. So instead of looking around me and maybe making eye contact with the guy and going, like, hi, we're all sitting on our phones without able to talk to someone that just walks in. And then 15 or 20 minutes later, thinking, actually, I'm quite attracted to them because they're really interesting or they're really amusing, or whereas you wouldn't even have given them a second glance.
Hmm.
We don't take time for that anymore. We want it. We want it now.
It is sad that that's the bar right now. I think there is something inherently tragic that the bar for, look, I wasn't even talk about dating or romance, just human decency is to, like, hey, put my phone away, look
Oh, yeah.
around, maybe acknowledge somebody else's existence, say, hey, maybe hold the door. I mean, shit, say hi. I don't know. But
Yeah.
those little things, I think in an era, what I'm hearing there is that in an era of all this convenience to be distracted by the media, the whatever in front of you, to consciously make the effort to put that away and be present with the people around you,
Mm.
however nominal. It doesn't need to be, I'm trying to engage the entire audience, but
Hmm.
even just to say, like, oh, I see somebody, and a nod of acknowledgement is
Hmm.
leaps and bounds,
Hmm.
leaps and bounds different from the 99% of people in society right now.
Yeah, and communication, which is eye contact and a smile. They're like first impressions. That's, and if you don't make them, then you can't move on. If you're not putting yourself in a position to have that eye contact and then to smile at someone, then you're not going to have that in real life experience of dating.
Hmm. Definitely not the sexy answer people want to confront.
No.
We're
But
gonna have to do this slow.
also, what's very unsexy as well is that I say to them, you know, I can put these people in front of you, but I can't make them fancy you
Hmm.
or you them. So it can be. I had a lady at the weekend and she was so excited about dating this guy, and she's in her mid 60s, and he was very nice, to be fair. But they had a lovely date. Again, I think he thinks he's more than what he is. And they had lunch and chatted. And then when they went to go, he said, she was actually quite blunt. And she said, do you want to see me again? Which I don't quite often get with the ladies. And he said, well, if you're being so blunt, then I will be. And he said, no, I don't think we've got a connection, even though they'd spent all afternoon together.
Hmm.
And then she came back to me and she said, what is wrong with me? Why did he turn me down? And I said, well, that we can't control. It's beauty is in the eye of the beholder, in whatever fashion that becomes, whether it's through personality or through, a certain type of look that you have or how you dress. But we can put them in front of you, but we can't make the chemistry.
Well, I think something else within what you just brought up there is important for people to realize that it's probably good to know that right off the rip. Like,
Mm,
hey, if they're really not into you, cool. You don't have to be strung along and wait and hope that they're going to answer the text or whatever. Like, cool. And you found out. But I think the other side to that is ask why. Hey, so what specifically? That's a
mhm.
hard thing to say, especially like, hey, well, what are you not interested in? And if you're good on you as a human being, doesn't matter what they say, you're just like, oh, we truly don't align. Like we might have had there's a difference between being friendly and having an intimate relationship. That's okay.
Mm,
That's okay to differentiate those things. If somebody's looking for a specific thing in a romantic partner, it might be very different. And it
mhm.
doesn't mean that they weren't into you. It just means they weren't into you in the sense that you're expecting them to want to be into you. And
Yeah.
that's also okay, but you can also get a greater sense of, oh wow, I actually understand who I am. I hope
Mhm.
that people like that are listening to this or people who work with you, like
Yeah.
you understand yourself better. I think that
Mhm.
what happens, I'd be curious to hear some of your insight into this, but I've got to imagine somebody who goes through a divorce or whatever, like maybe hasn't been very introspective on themselves. You kind of lose your sense of self at when you go through a transformation like that, because it is your a lot of times people have defined themselves by who they were married to and the kids they had and all
Mhm.
that stuff. Like
Mhm.
you're in, like you're in a new place. What actually matters to you now? That could be very different. If you don't get scope on that, that's you can't make an objective decision about like, wait, were they actually good for me? I mean, it might sting a little bit in the beginning, but man, save yourself 3 years of not wondering if that person really was going to be it or not. I don't know. Like it's hard.
I totally agree. Yeah, I agree with everything you say. They need to, in a way, after they've come out of the relationship again, for whatever reason that was, bereavement or divorce, is to regroup. Regroup, because you are a new person. You need to remember the person you were before becoming one half of another. And how has your life been? Have you been the one that's been doing everything? Because that would have tended in the boomer days would have been the thing, that the wives would have done one thing and the husbands would have done the other, whereas nowadays it's all a bit more, crossover. And why? Look at yourself before you move forward. Look at the mistakes that you made, because you did make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're both, if even if you were married and bereaved. I have a couple of ladies on my books at the moment who lost their husbands, but it wasn't that good anyway, but it would have been something they would have stayed with given the choice. So you need to look at yourself and how you want to move forward, which like, remember all the things about yourself that made you strong and brilliant and great, and remember how fabulous you are, and take that with you when you're going out again. Not this like, oh gosh, you know, he left me or she left me, and I'm only worth so much. You need to just realize what you are worth, even if it's little easy exercises every day, little things.
What's been the most inspiring portion of this work?
I think it's nice to see sometimes the people that come to us. A lot of people, when I run the events, because I run them myself, and they're small and in really nice little settings, and that a lot of people that come to the events come and they say they would never have done it before. And when they come and they said they had a really good time and they made new friends, because as I said, I removed the stigma of dating from the event. So come along, meet new friends, even talk about, meet new girlfriends or men friends, and talk about what you've been through, because that commonality with someone else is so good. Then you think, oh god, it's not me, and other people have done it, and enjoy that. So seeing people that wouldn't have done it do it makes me very happy. And then seeing people that maybe come through to me, and obviously we spend a lot of time with them because we mentor them through the process, and that's the difference with us. is that we go with them on the journey, and after each date, we're there. And it takes up a lot of time and energy because, you're dealing with some fairly broken people that you need to fix in a way and tell them how fabulous they are and how lovely they are and how lucky someone will be to get them. And I think when you see them pulling back in, that sort of faith in themselves and finding that, that foot to stand on again, whether it's going into another relationship or just getting out and about and meeting new people, then, if you do that for one person, then it's worth it.
Well, what I hear in that is ultimately helping people see how great they are, and perhaps them just feeling like they have some confidence in themselves to just be, whether it ends up in a relationship or not. Ending up in a better relationship with yourself is ultimately the number one. Yeah, like in my experience, ultimately, when you have decided to have a better relationship with yourself, how the old saying go? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. When you've readied yourself, the relationships you were looking for that you stopped seeking so tragically, they show up. They show up, and that seems ass backwards. But there's something about an energy of where you're like, I'm good either way, that attracts somebody else who's also like, I'm good either way too. This could be something interesting. There's a steadiness and there's an internal strength. There's a sexiness to that. It's also like, wow, they don't need me. Like, oh, they must got something going on. Like, I need me some of that secret sauce. What's going on here? Like,
exactly. They don't have that air of desperation, and people might mistake that for, they might just settle for anyone. So they're just like, okay, I'm me, I'm having a good time, I'm out, I'm about. And if we happen, to have a chat and we get on and it so goes into a date or whatever, cup of tea, whatever, then, and if it doesn't, it's also fine. And that, yeah, it oozes good vibes, nice, relaxed, and it removes that air of I need a man, I need a woman, and don't want to die alone.
Like, it's a little clingy, and like, it's nice for a moment, like, oh, somebody wants me, but like after a bit, like, it could be smothering, and I think people forget that. It's like it's almost like a child. Like, you don't want to be dating a child. Ultimately, you want to be dating an adult. You want to be marrying an adult who's capable of having an adult conversation, capable of maintaining themselves as an adult. There's a difference between being wanted and being needed. Now, those are two very different concepts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they are. But it goes back to what you said very much. About finding themselves. It's exactly that they need to do, and it's how you present it to them, and how they understand it. And I find with the 60s and upwards, you have to just, they don't deal in woo-woo, like sit down, journal this out and reflect on this. You have to put it to them as an, because I would just be like, no, I don't want to hear that stuff. And I would just be like, no, shit.
There you go.
Bullshit. I want somebody just to say to me, get up in the morning and think of 3 things that you are good at, or you were good at, or you're going to do today that you didn't do yesterday. And then tick them off that night and think to yourself, well done, me. That's how I see that the older generations like it to be late. Then they listen. But if you go, okay, so today you need to get your little journal out and you need to reflect on. No. There's a way in what you put it to them that they listen, and then they sit up and then they think, I can do that.
I love what you just brought out there, because that is understanding context and knowing the person you're serving. which is a universal concept in all things, whether it's business, relationships, you name it. Knowing who you're talking to, which ironically is also probably what your customers, your clients should know. Like, remember who you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody in this, like, know what they want, understand how they want to be communicated. That's probably how they're going to react. Um, Especially, what am I, 36? So I'm actually what's
You're
considered
only
an
a baby. You're only a baby.
there we go. Make me blush a little bit. Um,
Look at that little smile. That
I'm a
cheeky smile.
You really are making me blush. Apparently, I'm what is known as a geriatric millennial, which I think is a hysterical term in and of itself. Um, but like my generation, I'm kind of like, I feel like the beginning of, hey, we're going to talk a little more about feelings. That woo woo kind of stuff is more open and even I'm still like tail end, and
Mhm.
I am, especially as a man in my age bracket,
Mm.
way more open. Like I'm a walking anomaly. I'm not unaware of this. So people understanding, like, you got to meet people where they're at. It's not to say that that generation won't get there, but if you start in like this float around in the esoteric,
Mm.
that's not going to land. They probably want, as you're saying, something practical, pragmatic, quick, especially
Mm.
if you're talking about, well, they're in more of a rush. They feel like they're older in life. They don't have as much time.
Mm.
Don't sit and make them do 8-hour long essays. Like, that's probably not going to get done, and they're not going to do the damn work. So
No,
that was very insightful. I think that that's super practical for people to think, like, just go and talk to them and say the direct thing and move along with your life. um, Brevity is important.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it's because, again, like, oh, you're a geriatric millennial. Well, I can call myself a baby boomer because, again, I said, so I don't know which is, I think geriatric millennial is worse.
I love it. I act like an old man already. I have very consistent habits. I don't like my schedule being messed with in any way, shape, or form. My wife, I'm currently learning because my wife is a fifth grade teacher. So, and she deals with a lot of like special needs. Apparently, I have a lot of like on the spectrum tendencies of all those things. So I'm starting to learn a lot of my stuff just from my wife
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like teaching me about myself, which is hilarious. But oh, I love what
Still
you're
those
saying.
things, though, isn't it? Those are other things as well. There's so many people nowadays. I mean, a friend of mine now, no, she's turned 50 actually. She's just been diagnosed with ADHD, and those, like, a lot of people from the boomer generation have that, and they wonder, and it was, they'll go undiagnosed, and it affects quite a lot of stuff that you do and how you see yourself. Um, so, you just, and you can't get tested for it. You have to go private to get tested for it.
Mm.
I suppose is different from the USA. But, there's a lot of stuff that comes out in you later in life that, it's like dyslexia was never a thing when we were younger, and people were just judged on that. So I found that there'll be more things personality wise, or, that affect your personality, that will come out as we get older. But I doubt very much many 50 and 60 and 70 somethings will be getting diagnosed for ADHD.
Mm. No,
You just have
probably
to take it with them.
probably not. Well, out of curiosity, is there anything you're noticing in the trends of like people that are 50 plus that they are embracing that is new that people might not have thought of?
Sex.
Oh, hey.
It's not you.
So it's being more, as in like it's being more openly discussed, or
Yeah.
what's really?
Yeah, you see, yeah, I get, clients in their 50s and 60s and a few in their 70s. Like, they're all interested in finding a partner for a good active sex life. And again, people perceive, that when you get to that age, and you don't do it, or you don't do it a lot. And that is not the case. It might be a little different, approached a little differently, and, but the importance of it is there. and the regularity of it is there. And recently in the UK, there was an article in the paper, and it was that the over 65s have the highest STI rates in the UK. So garden centres had started to put condoms into seed packets so that they could buy them. That, the stigma, people looking at them.
Of all the things I thought I was going to learn today, that did not even remotely cross my mind. Condoms in seed. So essentially, in a way for them to kind of
Marrows.
I know I wouldn't have thought of like
Gotta grow a marrow.
I gotta go shop at the garden center again. I gotta get some more petunias or whatever. They're really just going for a pack of rubbers. Wow. Things that you would not anticipate being like market changers. That would never have dawned upon me.
No.
Ever. Man.
Amazing.
That makes me want to open a garden center just to offer that as a side benefit. That made my day. You made my day just from that. Oh my God.
So yeah, it's like it's all going on.
Tyson, my dog, wants to, of course, join the show. Come here, buddy. Come to daddy. You've been a sassy boy. Here he goes.
Very good. Hello, Tyson.
Tyson's got his little bumblebee thing on here.
Oh
yeah.
Cute.
He is something else. He's been getting very attached of late, especially since my wife had the last week off. So now he is literally hanging all over me like a child. So wants lots of attention. But okay, you can go back down here. So you're going to be part of the part of the party. Oops, there he is. I'm going to ask a quick, curious question. What have you learned about yourself in this whole journey of dating, coaching, matchmaking, this building relationships for this whole thing? This is, I mean, what a unique adventure you've been on.
Yeah, and I'm continually going on it now. I find about myself was that I am happy single. When I did split up from my ex, I started to date again. That's when I went online dating, and it wasn't a good experience. But I just done it because I thought I should be doing it. But I actually realized I don't need to have that sort of relationship. I don't have time now for it. I'm fulfilled. Still got, like kids at home. My youngest is 17, but that won't be for long because she's going to university next year. And I've been a parent for 30 years. My eldest is 30 this year, and my other boy is 25. So I've always been busy. I've got 2 dogs. I work very hard, and that kind of fulfills me at the minute. I have good friends, good family. I find that I think the main thing I have found on this journey is that you don't need romantic love to fulfill you. As long as you've got good friends, good family, and I'm from an Irish family, so I'm one of 7, but they're all in Northern Ireland, but still very close. Then I don't know. I think I found out now that I don't need that, and I probably don't want it. Again, though, if Mr. Fabulously Wonderful comes along, and but I'm not looking for him. That's a good thing.
Well, kind of like what we talked about before, it sounds like you put yourself into a place of strength, like when you don't need and you're just good on you, like you leave yourself open, but it doesn't mean you're dependent on that for you enjoying a fulfilling and robust life with meaningful relationships. There's plenty of other ways to hack it. Are you seeing this right here?
Yeah.
Talk about relationships of somebody who is a bossy little boy.
I know, and like he's trying to move. He knows exactly where the lens is, so he can grab the attention.
He is he is a ham. He might have learned that from me. I don't try.
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder where he got that from.
Yeah, I don't shy away from the camera. I'll be honest. But we're
My
gonna
mother, she's 80 and her Irish and her 80s, he would say, he didn't get that from the back doorstep.
I gotta tell you, I love accents in general, but I love your accent. It is phenomenal. It is
Thank you.
truly exquisite. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. I appreciate you sharing that though, and I think right now in humanity, not just older age, but across the, especially now that I've personally floated around in the internet space and I've gotten to know people local and abroad and all that, I find that there's just like a profound loneliness amongst people. And I'm equating it to being, I think there's we're having experiencing societally a spiritual health crisis. Tyson, come here, dude. You're being a little naughty. Um, I think people have lost, this is my belief, people have lost their sense of who they are and what their purpose is. And I think in so many ways, we've attached surface level assignments to what our value is. My job title, who I'm married to, who I'm dating, who, whatever that thing is. And of course, like those things can change, whether there's a death, whether you lose your job, whether there's a pandemic, all those things. And all of a sudden your identity can just get wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that deeper sense of self, I'm calling it spiritual health, a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual well-being.
Mm-hmm.
That's a that could be catastrophic in
Yeah.
how you adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does happen. It happens. And I think, again, when you mentioned the pandemic has so much to do. Like people were lonely before the pandemic, but after it, people have not ventured out, or gone back into society. It's it's quite scary, yeah, when you think of the the absolute devastation of loneliness and the what it can do to health. Well, it's the biggest killer, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah. Well, especially if I think the pandemic more exposed and or accelerated what was already happening,
Yeah.
and it
Right.
made it very obvious. Like you couldn't be like, huh, like no, there's a lot of people now. Like you see it with the mental health stuff, which the mental health and physical health, like you're seeing obesity skyrocketing, you're seeing suicides
Mm.
skyrocketing. These are just the ends of the extreme of a lack of center. And well, I think your type of work is so valuable beyond whether or not somebody finds a mate,
Hmm.
finds a life partner, is more the sense of like your own, like you don't have to be alone, especially everything you talk like learn how to just come have fun, learn how to
Yeah.
take the pressure off, learn how to
Hmm.
just be yourself, damn it. And like then you have a platform to start from.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. Because life is very short, And quoting my younger sister Lisa, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
That's yes, I love that quote. We're here for a good time, not a long time. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean people need to be reckless with it either. I think people hear that and they're like, oh, just like, oh, you're just going to
Yeah.
be some daredevil, whatever.
Yeah.
No, like a good time also can mean forging deep and meaningful relationships.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And enjoying just every day, for what it is, instead of getting up and going, oh, another day. Ugh." Like appreciate every day that you're able to get up and do something, because you don't know when the day comes when you're not able to get up.
Mm.
I think that health is, people underestimate health, as you say, whether it be mental health or health. And to me, that's your number one. That's your number one. If you have that, then everything else is workable. But if you don't have your health, then you haven't got much else. If you're ill to the point that you can't enjoy yourself, or ill to the point that you're actually not going to be around, are things that people don't realize on a day-to-day basis that when they are well and health and fitness is to get out and do stuff when you can, because who knows the day or when that day will come that you can't. And then you look at everything that's fabulous and outside in the life that's there, that was there, but you didn't make the best of it. And now you can't get out into it, you know, even to sit down and people watch or just enjoy people going by or go for your dog walk or anything. So I think people, you know, need to take that wee step back and think about being well and being able to do things and appreciating, you know, the body that they have, their mind that they have. But we don't tend to do that much.
Well, it's one of those things you don't appreciate it until it's gone. Then you're like, oh, wait, I did care about that. And it takes a lot of consistent work to just maintain it, not just to like get better at it, just to maintain it is it's work. It's not some passive thing you just don't put any effort into. It's always there.
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
curiosity, like with your own clients, are you finding people that do endeavor to have a more of an active lifestyle? Do you find that they are able to go through your process and increase their odds? So do you find they're more successful in finding a more suitable mate, a more suitable partner?
Well, what we do and the way that we do it is that we only take like-minded people on. Obviously, you know, our packages are not, well, they're not, we, as far for over here, you thought for America that we would be charging a lot more, but they're not cheap. So they're going to attract only people that can afford them. Now we do provide resources and ebooks and stuff for people who can't afford the resources. So we try and support them as well in our own way and offer free, you know, workshops and a certain amount of free workshops, because you can't just alienate people from dating just because they can't afford it. Everyone has a right and deserves to be able to. So we try and provide all those resources, the same talks for free and webinars and things. So on that side, we do that. On the people that come to us and pay, you know, and also the events are cheaper. Anyone can come to an event. You don't have to be a member. And the people that have our membership packages, well, we have I work on a really good collaboration and I have a really good network. So I've got my own network going as well. And in that there, if they listen to, you know, to the advice that we try to give them when they start, you know, which they tend to do, because they don't want me ringing them up saying, well, you know, explain to me now why you wouldn't date that guy, or explain to me why you didn't date that woman, you know, because I need to know, because I'm finding you these dates to go on. So I find if they follow that and listen to what we're trying to guide them the direction, then they have more chance, especially in their 50s. In their 60s, it's a harder horse to turn, because there's more gone in there, there's more expectations. Though that doesn't say we don't, but it's just a harder job for us, because there is a lot of expectation that they're what they're looking for is what they're going to get. You know, the relationship shopping list. So it takes us a bit longer to manage that, but we tend to wouldn't mean we get them dates. We send them on dates. They get on with people. But when they get into their later 60s, I think it's at mid to late 60s, but because in their 70s, then they're more grateful and they want to meet somebody and they're more flexible. It just seems to be that bit in the mid 60s that they become more set in their ways and they're going to stay that and they're not going to flex on it. And then when they get into the 70s, they think, actually, I might just flex on that now, you know, and then their 50s, they're still flexible. I find it so quite easy to match people and then have dates, like have people dating. But I have always got people dating in their 60s, but they're always coming back to me with picky little things. And I say, no. Just look at the positives. They seem to look at the like exactly what you said in the beginning. Do they look at the negatives instead of the positives? They seem to go in there and look for what she didn't do right, or she didn't ask this question, or he talked too much and didn't ask me anything about myself. So that seems to be the biggest thing with the mid to late 60s is that, and especially with men, where they go in to the date, and I don't know it's because they're nervous or not, and they just start talking about themselves. And they talk and they talk and they talk about themselves. And then they ask a question to the lady, and then she starts to answer it, and she can tell that they're just waiting for her to finish so that they can talk about themselves again. So they're not really interested in her answer. So with men, I have on my books at that age, that's the hardest thing we have to get them to do is to be interesting and interested. But we have success, but it's not easy success in their mid to late 60s. It's not easy. And
You
that's
mean we're
why,
stubborn? We're a little stubborn. We get a little more stubborn as we go.
as I say, it's not easy to turn that horse.
Well, I gotta imagine there's an interesting. It's so curious you're saying this though. Like, what a like 60s, like just that decade there, very so different. Where it said there's more open mindedness 50s and then 70s.
Mm.
What like the only things I can start thinking about, like what are some big shifts in lifestyle, what's happening there in the 60s is historically that's kind of the retirement age. Start thinking about like the tail end of life. You're starting the end in a way where like 50s is like you're kind of ending the middle, and then 70s is like, well, I'm kind of going now. Like
Yeah.
I'm on the path. I kind of figured out some of the initial stuff. Like, I'd rather just share the road. Like,
Yeah, you expect less. In you know, you then get to probably the values you should have been looking for before, which you will easily go now. You go, if they're interested in conversation, if they're polite, it could be of value to you. If they enjoy certain amount of things you like, you don't have to enjoy everything. There's always a new thing you can bring to the party. You don't have to. Everything doesn't have to align, but you look for less, you accept less, and you actually find that you get like a fabulous person, um, which we try to tell them to do a wee bit earlier on than that. But people in their 60s now, they're still 60 is young now. It's fit, they're healthy. They still think that they don't really need to match up with someone in their 60s, whereas actually they do. They do.
they still see themselves a decade or two younger than that, which I guess in many ways is a good thing. Like, you still have that joie de vivre and that kind of
Yeah.
that energetic side of you. Ty, you have got to be a little more respectful, dude. I've already taken care of you. What an interesting framework. What you brought up values there, and I love. I mean, one of the most important things that I ever was exposed to was discussing core values, and that came early in my career. Ironically, I think that gets, if you get put into like leadership positions and stuff like that, eventually you run into some of that personal development stuff, leadership development stuff. But I think that what most people don't see themselves as is a leader. And he's driving me nuts. Here, we'll take another one for you, bud. I think that the discussion around core values early and often would benefit so many people. Is there an openness to have that conversation? What does that look like with you guys, with your clients? Because I love that you're saying like, wow, by the time they hit 70, I was like, oh no, let's get back to that. Like, this is all I really do care about. Everything else is kind of like cool, almost bonus. That's kind of what I was hearing in that. What does that conversation look like?
Well, I always say, when they're going out on a date, just to be, mindful of the way your date behaves. Does it match in with your values? Um, was I don't mean necessarily opening doors or things like that. I mean, in how people speak to restaurant or cafe staff, or how they have conducted the date with you, how you have conducted. If someone asks you a question, just don't answer it and then move on. Just ask. Again, it's being interested, asking. Well, what will your thoughts be on that? So right away that they value the same things in life as you do, which before you've even found out, if you have, if you like the same TV programs, if you like the same sports, you know, to me, that is the first thing you like. Do they make eye contact with you when you're talking to them? And I mean, again, there could be other reasons, like, I don't know, but these are things that would be important to me. If someone couldn't make eye contact with me on a date, then I would not be going on a second date. And you watch people how they behave, and they'll either behave and you'll go, or you'll go, nope. Um, so behaviors are a big thing in values. I try to make them realize that, you could get a very, 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 sexy looking lady, but she might be an absolute bitch. You know?
Truth. Truth. And the other side around too, on the
Oh,
male end. I think I love that way you said that, because Ty, you're gonna sit here, buddy. You're being rude right now. Daddy's a little disappointed with you. Um, I love how you use the lens of behaviors to see how people are expressing similar values.
mhm.
You like not once you're like, did you ask them about like what do they make with their job? What they pull up, what card they pull up in, none of that shit. Like none of that shit matters ultimately,
No,
because on your deathbed, you're not gonna care.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love the subtleties, and people have like it's again coming back to like how low the bar is right now. Looking somebody in the eye is seen as like super high up the ladder. But from a simple notion of what you're talking, like that's just being respectful,
mhm,
asking a curious question. You said it
mhm,
before, like, are you just asking questions to wait for your own response? That doesn't
yes,
that doesn't line up. Do you really, Ty? Come here right now. You're gonna get a bad report card to mom. Um, those little subtle things in volume. What's the other thing you brought out? You talk about like how do you treat the wait staff? How do you
mhm,
treat the other people in the round? Like those are interesting ways to start looking how they interact with the entire environment. There's a lot of people who can sling it. Like I know how to date really well. I know how to like make sure they feel like they're the center of the world. But do you show that type of integrity with everybody in your life? And that's a very different construct. I think that is why I love why you brought that out, because now you're seeing more of their general persona. How do they really conduct themselves in life? If you're going to date them and or marry them, you're kind of hitching yourself to that wagon. You're almost
yeah,
guilty by association in
mhm,
many. Uh, I love how you distilled that into the behaviors and how you're looking at it in a very simple way. And you're like, cool, this is at least what I need to see on date one for me to even say date two.
mhm,
That's a very small minimum threshold to say we can take the next step. You do enough of those things, and I'm sure that the scale of what type of behaviors are, whether it was, I'm a big one on holding the door or saying please and thank you and all that stuff,
yeah.
simply because it's just not being a
That's you. That's the way you are. That is your value. That is how you've been brought up or how you behave. Not everybody does that.
and I think it's a shame. And it's not about like it's just about consideration. And if you're
Mm.
not angled to be considerate that way,
Then who
how do
do
you
they?
think? Well, how do you think they're going to treat you when you're going through a rough patch together? Are they
Mm.
going to just bulldoze through you because they're just centered on their thing, or do you want them to be a little mindful of like, oh, well, you're a person in my life. I still want to make sure. Are you okay? Do you still say
Mhm.
like my wife and I? We still say please and thank you. We still say thank you if we just did a little thing like the
Mhm.
laundry or made dinner or something like that. You're in my estimation, you should always be dating long after the honeymoon phase, long after the first time you get laid together. Like that stuff's fun and cool, but like
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to make sure like those things you shared there was brought out a little more, because I think those are key indicators of just how you exist. And that
Mm.
takes practice to make sure that's part of all of your daily life, to make sure that you show up consistently. Like that's not easy. It's like just being stronger. You didn't just build the muscle overnight. It took years of practice. I love that. I love that your response to that value stuff, because I think people think that that's just like some game you play, as opposed to, no, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And that's an expression of me. That is why somebody will feel confident or safe or whatever to take the next step with me as a person.
Mhm. Yeah.
God, I can't teach my dog these things.
Which is, when you think of it, it's so important, and it's really more important than whether they're 6 foot and, or, executive management, or because that doesn't determine their values, or what weight they are or anything. These parameters that online dating have learned us to set, maybe possibly ruling out, the love of her life because he could be 5'11", um, and immediately you've left swiped. I think that's right. Because
I don't even
he
know. I don't know if it's a left or a right, to be honest with you. I never
left the
get
right
to
answer because you're married.
see. There we go. For the record, I joined one dating site once. What was it, eHarmony or something like that? I was at a low point. Never matched with anybody, never nothing. I met some girl through a friend like a week later. It was more like a symbol to me, like I opened myself up to being in a new relationship, but I have no concept of what the online dating world is because I maybe opened it once and it was on my computer. So like not a clue. Not a clue.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mhm.
I interrupted. I apologize.
No. It breeds a funny mindset then, for people that have had a bad experience to come off it and then they want to come to us. It's trying to remove all that wrong that's in there, all that expectation, oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, they've got a funny eye. Oh, I don't like that shirt they're wearing. Oh, he's only 5'3". Oh,
I
that
don't
type of
like
thing.
the
Oh,
shirt he's wearing. Oh my
he's
God.
a window cleaner. Oh my God. It's just all wrong.
What if they're just a happy person that makes you feel loved and appreciated? That might be a great place to start because I think that's stuff that people forget. Like there's a million ways to make money. And there's a million ways. But man, if you don't enjoy the people you're around, you're gonna hate your life. You're gonna
Yeah.
hate your life. And I'd much
Yeah.
rather be around somebody who's got some simple job, who
Mhm.
feels fulfilled every day, who goes home and loves on their people and makes them feel valued and validated. That's a
Yeah. And makes enough to survive and do nice things in life.
yeah. And nice is also a relative thing. Like maybe they just love to garden every weekend. I don't know. Like whatever
Uh,
that means.
yes,
Uh,
exactly. But that would be important to someone.
Absolutely. And being honest and transparent of like, this is just what I like to do is cool. I mean, if you're somebody who wants to fly planes for a life, like, okay, you need to figure that, you need to sort that out. That's a different financial obligation. You probably need to go put yourself in different circles there. But um, yeah, all that stuff, I can't, I apologize. This is 3 days in a row that he has just gone off the wall bonkers. Do you see this? He's pawing at this thing.
No, I
Everybody
can't see.
listen.
I can see his tail. Oh, I see him now.
He's got a big old smile. He just wants to. He wants to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
He hears all this love coming from your side of the pond, and it's like, I just want to be part. I want to be part of it.
He
Yeah,
knows I've got 2 dogs here behind the screen.
that's what it is. He knows. He knows when friends are around. Love it though. My dear, you have been absolutely lovely today. If somebody's listening and they're like, "Yo, I need more Jacqui in my life. Whether I want to be in a social or I just want to be friends with her. I want to connect, or maybe I'm looking wherever they land on all the spectrums of everything they've heard with all the things.
Yeah.
What would be the best way for somebody to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and also my email is Jacqui, Jacqui, at select-connections.com, and that's directly to me. And yeah, I'm all, like if anyone needs any help or advice or just wants to connect on socials, why not?
Love it. Well, I will make sure I put that in the show notes because you're just fantastic. Whenever you have a social over
Right?
here, I'm gonna go show up at the social as a friend, as
Absolutely.
a platonic partner in the in the socialization aspect, I will gladly be the youngest person in the room. I love,
You will
love.
definitely be the youngest person in the room by a long shot.
Well, maybe I'll do some like exercise stuff. We'll do some breath work. I'll talk about feelings. We'll open that door. We'll talk about do some
Yes.
core values. I'm already planting the seed here. We're gonna have a good time with
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. I would enjoy that very much. Maybe have a sneaky wee glass of wine after.
it. Or during. Why not? Let's do it. I'm here for a glass of wine. Before we
Brilliant.
go,
Oh, it's
what
been fabulous.
oh, this has been lovely. I can't wait till I get to meet you in person and just give you a big hug. If you couldn't tell
I
already,
know, it'd be great, won't it?
we will. Before we go, what is some parting words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Oh, advice. Well, I suppose, we talked about quite a lot today, all to do with well-being. And I suppose the most important to me is to that we were just saying it's a short, we have a very short window on this planet. And if there's anything that you can take from what either of us said today to make it any better, then get in touch, because I am so into giving any advice that will help anyone. Because even if there's one thing that you say that changes someone, then it's worth it. So, yep, it's important that we can do anything to make the best out of whatever we have left in this life, whether it's 30, 40, 50, or 10 or 20 years or 2. We just have to enjoy every minute.
You got me in my feels right now. God, I love you. You're awesome. You're awesome. This is fantastic. Well, Jacqui, thank you so much. For anybody who's listening, her information is going to be in the show notes. Make sure you connect. Maybe we'll social. Maybe we'll see. All the fun
Oh,
things
we'll
to
be
come.
social, and don't you worry. That
Got
is
me
a
all
threat,
fired.
not a promise.
Yes, let's do it. I love it.
Let's do this thing.
Well, friends, make sure you go connect with Jacqui. I've got Tyson right now. He's going to wave goodbye because he's probably a hungry boy. That's why he wants to
Yeah.
get him more involved. Exactly. I can't say the D word out loud, though, because then he'll really go banana sandwiches. But thank you so much for being part of the show today. Thank you for everybody for listening. And until next time, I remind you to love everybody.